Hey guys, welcome back to Video Entrepreneurs. It's great to hang out with you guys here again today. We're going to have a lot of fun talking with you guys about building a team around your YouTube channel. I was reading an article not too long ago. He wrote it about a few years ago, but Hank Green wrote an article on Medium about how it's really difficult to make it on YouTube alone anymore. And he said that we're entering an era, 2 years ago he said this, we're entering an era of small teams. And he said it's really coming to the point where you can do it by yourself and there'll still be those pop-out creators, but having people around you who are working with you, being a part of your team, can really help your channel grow and see the success that it needs in order to quote unquote compete on YouTube these days. So today we're gonna talk with Chad and Melissa. They are in the hot seat tonight, and their channel is Clean My Space. You can check it out. Link to them is below, as well as to the other guests here. If this is your first time here, welcome. What this show, Video Entrepreneurs, is all about is it's me and 5 other full-time YouTube creators just talking shop, basically, is giving you guys a behind-the-scenes look at what's happening on our YouTube channels, sometimes from an audience development perspective, but also from a business perspective and the things we're working on, the roadblocks we're bumping into, and the things like that are going on here. So we're excited to talk with you guys about that. If you're not already aware, you can get the recordings of these, the audio recordings, as a podcast, then iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. And you can find links to those in the description below and go down there and subscribe and download those that way. And I usually add a little bit, some stuff in the beginning and end for you guys there too. So you can download it there. If you want to make sure that you're getting a notification each time we go live here every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, you can text the word VC Live to 43506, and I will send you guys a text message notification. When we do that, maybe some of you guys in the chat here, well, if you just type in like holla if you're one of the people who got a text message notification and now that you're here. So it doesn't cost you anything, completely free. VC Live, text that to 43506. Thanks to my friends at techsignal.com for providing that for us to use together. And yeah, there we go, a couple of people. Chad is here because he's in the live stream too, but thank you for getting my text message, Chad. So let's see here. So we're going to jump into this episode. It's going to be awesome. And while we're doing this, I want you guys to feel free, totally ask your questions, leave your comments, share your insights in the chat while we're doing that, going through this. As you guys who've been here in previous weeks know that Heidi, she is known as Scandinavian Today in the chat, her channel, she will be taking your questions and feeding them to us. We will be reading the chat ourselves, but sometimes we can't jump on them right away, so we want to make sure we don't miss them. So Heidi will be moderating the chat and say hi to Scandinavian Today and thank her. And she will be taking your questions, and we'll be answering as many of them as we can here in the show, particularly questions that relate to the topic at hand here. If you have other questions that aren't as relevant to this topic, then we probably won't get to them. We'll favor the ones that are relevant. Cool. So before we jump into the content here, I want to give a huge thank you to this week's sponsor, which is vidIQ. A few weeks ago, I showed you guys how you can use the vidIQ Chrome extension to expose a lot of valuable data about other people's videos and how you can use that data to evaluate why is their video performing well and why is it not performing well and what can you learn from it. And you can take that information then and learn a lot about how to make your own videos perform better as well. So the vidIQ Chrome extension has a lot more built in than just that data though. There's a link to it in the description below if you want to go check it out. I want to see if I can take you guys to my desktop here and show you some of the tools that come with this Chrome extension that are ones that I usually enjoy and use the most here. So the first thing I really like is the comment filtering thing. Let me take you, like this video here had 1,342 comments so far on it. I'll click on that to go straight to them. And the vidIQ Chrome extension will pop up right here at the top. And I love it because look at all these filters. I can filter all of these all of these comments. I can look at ones I haven't replied to yet, or maybe ones that I have replied to, and I'm going to see if they have a follow-up yet. Maybe comments that don't have any replies, or only comments that do have replies, or maybe ones that have questions or something. Like I can just click on those, and it'll just sort them out and show them, and I can just scroll through and see just those questions and reply to them, or ones that I've replied to, and filter out those as well. See here, I replied to this one. So it's a really cool way of me being able to manage thousands of comments across all these videos, and being able to just reply to the ones I want with all these filters, and being able to jump in and out of those when I have some time and get to those comments. You can apply multiple filters if you want to. Click this and check the boxes you want. Comments made by a certain user, minimum number of subscribers, whatever. Great tool. Another thing that I use pretty often on here is, let me go back to my video manager, is I love it that I can make mass updates to a lot of these videos. Now, this is a tool you want to use very sparingly, because you don't want to reset how all these videos are ranking and the way Google looks at all these in search and things like that. But what sometimes I'll do is I have links in these videos, and sometimes I need to update the URL. So let's say I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go mass edit videos, and you can do it by number of videos, list by video IDs. I'm just going to do playlists for this example, and it'll load my playlists right here. And let me just say, I don't know, let's just do make money at brand deals. I don't know, pick that one. And it's going to load the data. And then what I can do is I can do a search and replace. Basically, I can say, hey, wherever let's say I updated, I can open these individually and edit them. But let's say search and replace, I need to update a URL. Let's just say for video creators.com, and I need to replace that. Okay, it says filter 11. It found 11 of them, and I can say, hey, you know what? You need to replace all those URLs with my new domain. So it'd be like videocreators.tv or something like that, right? And then I just replace, and automatically boom, 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 just go through and replace. I don't obviously want to do this, but that's what you could do, and just kind of keep your URLs and descriptions and things in place on a mass level like that, which is cool. The last thing I'll show you is they have a cool built-in thumbnail editor. Let's go right here, and then it has thumbnail editor, and you can do a couple cool things here. You can go through like frame by frame through here. Let's just say I like that one. I can click next. I can add text on it, shapes, other images. There's some templates I can create here as well, which is really cool. And then the other thing too, here's the current one, but you can also upload other images here and work with them. So it's a really cool way to, if you don't have Photoshop or something, a really cool way to be able to quickly make some engaging thumbnails for these videos. vidIQ is it's the only YouTube Chrome extension that I use, and I love it, and I love sharing it with you guys because I really do find it valuable for me. So I'm sure you guys will find it valuable too. In the description below this video, you guys can check it out. The best part about it is that the Chrome extension is free, and almost the vast majority of their features are available for free at no cost at all. If you do want to take advantage of some of their paid features, you can do that. The promo code is VideoCreatorsTV, and you've used that promo code at checkout. You get 30 days to try any of their paid plans for free, just to see if it's right for you or not. And so you can get that Chrome extension itself. Click the link in the description below. Go to vidiq.com/videocreatorstv and download it completely for free. You guys will love it. I love it. I use it pretty much with every video I upload, as well as while I'm watching other people's videos and doing channel reviews and evaluations and all that kind of stuff. So super helpful tool for me. It's been awesome. Cool. Let's get into the topic. Hello, panelist people. How are all you guys doing tonight?
Good. Doing well.
Let's quickly introduce ourselves for people who might not know who you guys are, who are just hanging out with us for the first time in the chat. If you are with us for the first time in the chat, let us know in the chat. Say, hey, I'm first timer, and I'll see if I would like to know how many of you guys are new here. But Shannon, let's start with you. What's your channel?
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm the creator behind Bounce Patrol, which is a kids channel. So we make original songs, nursery rhymes, music videos for toddlers and kids aged up to sort of early elementary school age.
Cool. Derek?
What am I doing here? Oh yeah. I create cocktail videos on the internet. I create 5 to 6 different cocktail videos a week dealing with brands, brand reviews, new cocktail creations, custom cocktails, classic cocktails, you name it. It's fun time, lots of energy, lots of enthusiasm and yelling. So that's kind of where I fall.
Cool. Melissa and Chad.
I'm Melissa, and this is my husband, Chad, and together we make the videos on Clean My Space, which is a channel all about cleaning, but we try to make it fun and informative because we know it's a boring topic.
Well, my wife would greatly appreciate. We just had a conversation today about how we're trying to keep our house clean, but that's a whole other topic for another time. It's hard. Let me just say it's hard with 6 kids. Yeah. Antonio.
Yeah, my name's Antonio Centeno. I'm the founder of Real Men, Real Style, where I use military history, science to make style relevant to men.
Cool. And Scott.
Hi, my name is Scott. I have a YouTube channel called Nerd Sync, where we talk about comic books and use them as a tool to teach about real world science, history, and philosophy.
Awesome. Cool. You guys can check out all the channels linked up down below. Today, Melissa and Chad are in the hot seat. And how can we help you guys today?
So sit back and get comfortable because I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes bringing you up to speed to where we are with our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And our life in general. It began in 1976. Now it would suck.
No, your life.
10 years ago, we started a cleaning company here in Toronto, which is called Clean My Space. 6 years ago, we discovered YouTube. Well, we knew of YouTube, but we decided to try YouTube, putting some videos up so that perhaps some people would see the videos who might live in Toronto, who might end up using our cleaning service. What ended up happening was people liked the videos much more than they liked possibly using our cleaning service. Plus, the vast majority of people weren't anywhere remotely close to Toronto. So we got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback. We happened to be the only ones at the time making cleaning videos, or at least a channel dedicated just to cleaning videos. So a lot of people caught on rather quickly. And we decided to kind of kick it up a notch and make it a bit of a part-time thing for us. So we were still running the cleaning company. I still had a full-time job. Melissa had a part-time job. And we were also
running our cleaning service.
Running the cleaning service. And we also had, sorry, I lost my train of thought. We also had, oh my goodness me.
So he had a full-time job. He was running our channel, doing sort of the video editing and the social media and all the photography and anything that went into supporting our website, pretty much building out our brand. He would do that after hours. So Chad was literally working 80 hours a week. And then I wouldn't necessarily call my work part-time. It was pretty full-time.
Yeah,
I was working full-time at our service business, and then we would film videos on evenings or weekends, and then go back and do our regular sort of, not 9 to 5, but regular jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of scaled up the business that way. It took us a while to build up our audience. I know a lot of you guys who are watching, you're saying, oh, how do I get my first 100 subs? It took us a long time to get 100 subscribers. And it took us, it took us over a year to get 1,000 subscribers. So it really took time for us to scale. We sort of had this weird concept like cleaning videos. So it took a while for them to take off. Obviously, I think we would have done better had I been doing makeup videos or cooking videos, but that's a bit saturated. Anyway, all that to say, we really started to take it seriously in 2014. January 1st, Chad left his job. He resigned from his position. And we said, you know what? We better start making money doing this, because now we're on one income essentially, and Chad needed to replace his income, and he was making great money in his other positions. So we started to do that, and things started growing, running our service company, and he was now doing this full time.
But accelerating a lot quicker, as you might know. Once you get to 10,000, 100,000 doesn't seem all that far away. And then it turns into a full-blown business, which is making some good money, certainly replacing a full-time income. But you end up hitting a wall where you're putting in so much time to make it run. At some point, you need to relinquish that and bring on a team.
I want to say at about 250,000 subscribers is when we started to really feel the pressure?
So one of the first people we brought on was my best friend, who is our senior producer now, who basically edits and helps shoot virtually every single video that we put on our channel. It is a full-time job for him, and he does a fantastic job at it. We also brought on someone who just takes care of analytics, just taking care of optimizing the videos, titles, thumbnails, search, and also traffic direction. You have a
I call him the air traffic controller for all of our content. So he basically figures out how to route all of that. And I mean, we realized how important that was when we were, learning about YouTube's best practices. And the reason we brought someone on to do that was because it's a lot of work that goes into doing all of that. And we figured our time was better spent creating content than doing the actual nitty gritty, because that ended up that was a significant drain on our resources.
Yeah.
So we also saw the success from that. So we knew that was something that we wanted to continue doing, but it was a great, we got to alleviate that from our workload. Something that is very important, but that is something that we could outsource or get someone else to do who was knowledgeable in that area. Anyhow, as time went on, and we won't get into too much more detail, we brought on a lawyer or a business manager who helped us with sponsored deals and kind of contracts, plus also works with Melissa on a whole host of other things, including TV appearances and whatnot.
He's kind of like a talent manager too, so that's what he does.
We have like kind of a digital Swiss Army knife, not even a digital Swiss Army knife, someone who basically helps us with scheduling, taking care of kind of things that we just don't have the time to do right now. And we're at the point where we're right in the middle of bringing on 2 people to handle our social platforms. So we get to the point where is the question. We've grown a team to about 6 to 8 people at this point. It looks like we probably are going to have to grow a little bit more. However, we're at the point where we're not making enough money now to have a team of 10 or 12 at least employed. And we're wondering, how big do you make a team? At what point do you reach a level where you have enough people so that you're diverse, and if any one of the cogs ends up coming out of the equation continue on, but at the same time, each of those cogs feels so empowered to do a good job and empowered to do a variety of things, so therefore they don't end up having staleness in their job, or they're not passionate about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I'll say is, unlike I think a lot of YouTubers, I work at what we call Clean Digital. That's our digital business. I work there 1 day a week. So I pretty much work on any of our video stuff on Tuesdays. Otherwise, I'm focusing on our service company and another project that I've been heavily involved with. So I'm down to 1 day a week. In fact, I don't even get paid from that company. So
So that's where we're at. We're at the point where certainly some more work needs to be passed along, but we're questioning how big the team gets before it gets a little uncontrollable, or, we're also just financially not at that point now where we can do it, but we do understand the value of it.
Yep. Got it. Cool. So the main question is, what's the main question we're hitting first?
The main question is, when you're building a team, is there a limit to are you focusing more upon getting really good people who can do a lot of stuff that you can rely upon? Or are you looking for, maybe someone who's a little more distant, so therefore it's easier to replace? You're not so reliant upon the individual members of your team. Are you looking for someone who's going to buy into it and really, really give it your all, with the risk of losing that person and all of the resources put into that person? Or do you go and just try to build a large team with a lot of different cogs and hope for the best?
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Specialists versus generalists, is that sort of what you're asking?
That's a great way to say it, yes.
I think your internet's breaking up a little bit, Chad and Melissa, too, but we're getting most of it, though.
So I think you tied two sort of questions together there. The first one I heard you say was, balancing specialists versus generalists. And in a small business, do we try and get one person who can wear 50 different hats and do a lot of things? Or do we get, 5 people who can do those 5 individual things and specialize? And then the second thing I think you were talking about was in terms of, how do you find someone who's got the passion for your business? And you also said, someone who's really going to invest in that, as opposed to someone who's kind of just clocking in the time. I think you kind of Is that an accurate reflection of those questions?
It could have easily been split out. It was kind of together, as in, do you focus more upon just someone who can do a job, or do you focus more upon finding fewer people who are more passionate about doing it and who you can invest more time into?
Yeah, the way I approach it is I look for, so I like this. I open up like just an Evernote document, but you can use anything. And I just list out what are all the tasks this person is doing. And then I try to like group them up. Like, okay, these are mostly just button clicking, administrative type of tasks. These are more creative design type of tasks. These are more strategy type of right? And so I just try to like, if I have, I try to like put all the different tasks in like different buckets like that. And what I found is, and I know this is true for me, but it's also been true for people that I've worked with, I think, is that typically like the button clicking type of administrative people don't, they don't really enjoy, and they don't really like the more creative expression type of stuff. And the strategy thing kind of feels a little bit overwhelming. They just want people to tell me what to do and I'll do it, right? And then you have other people who are like, hate that, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, I want to have some ownership. I want to have some creativity. And so they want to be more involved in like strategy and problem solving type of stuff. And so on my team, I feel like it makes everyone enjoys what they do more rather than like, hey, I like half my job, but I hate the other half of my job. I think it's better. I like it more when everyone enjoys what they're doing and they're doing something that's like their sweet spot that they're really good at and they're really passionate about. And so I tend not to overlap like those big categories too much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Melissa and Chad, how long have you had these 8 people with you? The reason I'm asking is I find that the people I started with are not necessarily the people that I'm going to continue. So going back and looking at your team, did you make an early hire that at that time in your business, it was a good person to have, that maybe at this point you just need to upgrade that person because you settled at that point for maybe someone that was good, but honestly, you could find someone for what you're paying this person that's friggin' amazing. And you could almost get twice as much. And I mean, it sounds, I'm always looking for what are called 5%ers. And the 5%ers are literally, they're that 5% of people who have initiative, who look for things to be able to do, are coming to you with ideas, have thick skin, because when you shoot down that idea, they're like, okay, well, I'll try another one tomorrow, and it's like these people are 5%ers. They're only, 1 out of 20. And so you're constantly, I know I'm always looking for those people. And unfortunately, most of my team is not 5%ers. So I'm always in the back of my mind looking, can I upgrade this person? And I've got now 19 people. I listed them out that I'm paying, of which 15 show up to my Monday meetings that we have every Monday morning. Everyone has to be there because that's when I spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes aligning everybody in the direction that we're pulling or we're going. But I'm just wondering, have you looked at your team and possibly could there be upgrades in the team that you need to make?
Can I throw the question back to you, Antonio? Can you give us an idea of what your team of 19 does? And part 2 of that question is, can you tell us about your Monday morning meetings?
Sure. And so the order in which I hire the people, and so I have a chart, sounds incredibly cruel, but I have like in the order, if I had to jettison people, who I would, because as a business owner, I've got to meet payroll. And if I run into, right now, I'm building up cash reserves. I'm not Apple computers. I don't have 50 billion, but I want to have literally $1 million sitting in my business accounts so I could make it through a sustained period of a lull, which happens in businesses. So, but going through my team, I've got my number one guy that's been with me since the beginning. His name's Yuri. He's my tech manager. He took off of me what I hated, which is tech management. Right under that, I had one of my first writers. His name was Jeffrey. He doesn't work for me anymore. He was a 5%er, but I made him into a 5%er. It took me 3 years. But now I've got about 4 writers that work for me. And honestly, Jeffrey could have done the job of 2 to 3 of those writers. So it just tells you how good he was. And I'm still looking for another Jeffrey. Then I've got Jamie and Jamie and Kat. They manage my email and my customer service. And I've got duplicates there in email and customer service because I've had people quit on me. And when you have one person who answers all your email and is gone the next day, you're stuck answering all the email. So I've got people cross-trained. Then I've got Thomas. He does all of my video. This guy he's pretty much a 5%er. I hand him something and I don't even look at my videos. When he uploads them, I trust that it will be good to go. He puts it on YouTube. He puts in the thumbnail. He does all the annotations, all the cards. Boom. I mean, it's friggin' awesome. Then I've got Tina in graphics. Actually, we have 3 other artists now because we do infographics, we do banners, and each of them have specialties. I have Jane. She's on social media, but I've got 2 other people that are cross-trained. I've got Bea for special projects. And then I've got one of my newest hires in the last year. His name's Travis, and he's my content manager, and he kind of brings it all together. And I've recently hired another gentleman as my operations manager. So his job is to go in and make sure people are doing what they do. Now, that was kind of my general order of people. I also didn't put in there my accountant. She's very specialized, and she's one of those people I pay every month, and she specializes in online businesses. My Monday meetings in general are going to be, I'm thinking what the big picture is and something that I see reoccurring. So one thing I saw is that the team is failing on execution. Imagine 15 people emailing you, just one email a day, but still that's 15 emails asking, Antonio, can you take a look at this? Or Antonio, do you think this is good to go? And I'm saying, stop. I am not an editor. I trust you to get this out. And I think Shannon talked about this in one of our other meetings. You need to, the pressure's on you. Get it out there. And if you make a mistake, own it. But I can't look at this anymore. So that was what I spent 30 minutes giving examples, praising people who were doing it right, and then just reminding those that, we can all do better and let's move forward. And then after that, I have my managers meeting, which only 3 people go to that meeting. And that happens right after a 30-minute to 45-minute meeting. So they're back to back. Does that help?
Wow.
Yeah, no.
That's
Yeah, I mean, it's been, someone said in the comments, actually said, OMG, that's an empire. Amazing. And it does actually sound that way, Antonio. That's really, really impressive.
The goal is to take over the whole style world. So,
Can I stop you for a second? Because what you just said makes a lot of sense for what you just said. You're saying that to basically scale, expand, and take over build that empire, you need to build a team, and you're the type of guy that's equipped to be able to manage that. I'm an idiot, right? So I would need somebody.
We all start at 0. Yeah.
Right. But you're ahead of the game already. So for me, people in the comments, I think, are kind of a little intimidated.
I just follow books, man.
But you want to follow books. I think there are people like me that I don't really care. I would be happy if I can make $100 over negative, right? If everything I do nets me at the end of the day enough to put a little away for my kids' college or whatnot, I'm okay. And I think some people have to understand that they don't need to take over the world.
I agree. I agree.
And some people do. There are different ways of taking it, and whatever makes you comfortable. I hope that people don't think that you need a team in order to a big team to manage YouTube. I think
everyone starts at nothing and then it grows. I started at nothing. Antonio started at nothing. Melissa and Chad just shared their story. They started at nothing. And as the business model works and it flourishes, then more opportunities come and you need more help to manage all of it, really.
I think, Derek, it has to do with your objectives, right? Antonio, I think, and our objectives, and I feel like other people in the group, some other people in the group, their objectives are to indeed create that empire. We look at cleaning the same way Antonio looks at men's style, right? Mm-hmm. So, the reason why this is such an important topic for us is because scaling is challenging, and we're trying to figure out, how do we do it? How much do we spend? Who do we entrust? What are those roles? Do we have dual roles? Or, Antonio, when you were talking about your guy who edits and then puts up the videos and does all the tagging and everything like that, that's interesting, because the guy that edits and puts up our videos, film, he helps with it. who does the tags. So it's very interesting to see where the
breakdown changes.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if our connections. Sorry if our connection's a little weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was very, very interesting. I'd love to hear from Shannon and Scott what you guys do, and Tim as well. I know Derek, we heard from you, but yeah, it's so helpful to hear the.
I heard enough of Derek.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I go for specialists over generalists is one of the things that I would say I do. And my opinion on trying to find someone who's going to be able to do a great breadth of things is that a lot of those people are the kind of people who are going to start their own businesses. Like you're trying to find you, right? If you're trying to find the kind of person who can do a whole bunch of different tasks, and if they don't know how to do something, they'll learn and they'll really get passionate about it. You're trying to replicate yourselves, which isn't necessarily the kind of person that you want to find in your business, because they might be great, but they'll be with you for 2 years and then they'll go off and do their own thing anyway, because they're that kind of person who has those skills and is going to want to do those things. Not always, but that can be a trap that you fall into as well. And there's something to be said for finding someone who's going to really nail down one specific skill and be really great at that. And they don't have to add value by being good at 20 different things. If they can really help you out with understanding social media, understanding your voice, for instance, and knowing exactly everything there is to know about that. Because the other thing is, when you get specialists over generalists, take social media, for example, there's a lot to know about that. You can kind of get 50% of the way there with social media by being a generalist who does a bit of social media and a bit of filming and a bit of editing and a bit of other things. But if you really want to nail your social media presence, you want someone who lives and breathes it, and they're always reading up on the latest, algorithm changes for Facebook and all of that kind of thing, because that's what they do 100% with their time. So I would tend to say breaking up the jobs into more people, even though it adds complexity, as you scale, it means that you've got people who you end up with some redundancy as well, because people will know a little bit about what other people in the company do also, which means if someone leaves, there's more people who kind of know what's going on, which is helpful as well. But also each one person can be really good at the thing that they specialize in. So that's me.
I go more for the specialist also, because I want everyone to really love their job and not have like all these little things that they like and then the things they dread, which then they don't do as well. And so I want people to do what they really love, what they really enjoy. And when they do that, I find that they work better, they work harder, they do a better job at it. The hard part with it, though, is if you're in a position where you can't afford to do, like, you could afford like one full-time person, but not like 4 part-time people, who are like all specialists in those different fields. And that's a kind of a bumpy area. Like, I feel like you just kind of got to push through that and get your, until you're generating enough that you can have all 4 of those be full-time. Like, for example, right now I can talk about this, like in my business, I'm in an awkward phase with my editor because she's part-time, but I need someone who pretty soon here is going to be full-time. And because she's part-time with me, she also has other gigs, but that means she has to say no to all those other gigs and to come work with me. So I like having people who are just dedicated on just my projects full-time. Like my business manager is 40 hours a week. I like that. And I want that in other areas too, but it's just like an awkward phase I'm in right now, because I'm not quite ready to go full-time, but I soon will be with some of those other positions. So, for me, the way I'm looking at it is like, this isn't that much. Like I could serve people better with having this be a full-time position. I'm not there financially yet, but I'm working to get there as fast as possible so I can get out of the awkward phase of having a lot of part-time people. But what that also means is some of the times the part-time people don't want to go full-time, and they took it because it was part-time, and now I have turnover again, which is costly and time-consuming and everything too. So I like having just full-time people as much as possible in specific roles, but there is that little awkward, frustrating period in between you gotta deal with, which having part-time people is great, but eventually it starts to break down. So
Do you guys have an org chart that you've designed that says, look, ultimately, this is where we're trying to get to, and here are all the roles in the business, and that moment, this one person is doing these 5 jobs, but, you know, ultimately in 2-3 years, if we were twice or 3 times the size we are now, this is how we would be structured.
Right.
Sometimes having that map, that roadmap that you've got already worked out, can say, okay, this is where we are now, and so we can structure within this, but this is the org chart that we're trying to get to. And then when you're hiring for this one particular role, you keep in mind in 2 years that's going to morph into something that looks like this, and that can kind of help you frame what that needs to look like now, to know where it needs to get to be to reach that goal in 2 years time, say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think that's something we will probably do by the end of the week, because one of the big challenges, and this might lead into another question, and I'll let you jump in too, but well, maybe I won't. One of the things that we've been dealing with lately is like just the volume. Even though we have these teams, and I don't know if you guys experience this, the volume of work, there's just so much to do. And when new projects come on, it's like, all these people are already doing so much stuff. Like, okay, who's going to do this? I guess I'm going to do it, because like these guys are all busy and they're already running everything.
Right.
So it's just a matter of, I think the org chart and sort of setting up for the future is one thing. And then the other thing that we have really needed to focus on, and I think I'd love your input on this, is how to figure out an effective workflow. Like when you get a project, and then how do you manage your weekly stuff, and who in the team is doing what, so that I'm a firm believer, and we talked about, business books that we love. The E-Myth really taught me that you really need to focus on what you're great at, and then put systems in place for everybody else to do their jobs. So I know what I'm great at. He knows what he's great at. But then there's also that in-between kind of place where it's like, okay, we're really good at these things, but like there's only so many people to go around. So you got to fill in the gaps.
Yep.
We're strong as far as making goals and setting goals every single year and listing those out and addressing them at all times. We've never gotten to the point where we've done that as far as, like you suggested, Shannon, in an organizational chart. We've done it for other companies that we run, and we understand the value and the importance of an org chart. And maybe to tie this into Derek's earlier point, where there might be a lot of people watching this being like, I'm so far away from a team, it's mind-blowing. You would be so surprised that we're at a position with 8 people, and it feels like it happened yesterday. What ends up happening is you end up growing so incredibly fast, and that does not stop. That actually only gets faster.
That's exactly
the more people you bring on, the more work you end up having, and the more work you end up creating simply by bringing people on. Yes. So as much as you might be sitting there thinking, oh, that's a distant problem I'm comfortable with, if indeed your goal is like Antonio's, where it's like, I really want to take a run at this, it becomes a reality. And as soon as it becomes a reality, it becomes an overwhelming, overpowering reality. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, in the way I typically have worked it, I mean, I've hired people to do tasks, especially finances. Like I said last week, is I not good. Right? I don't need the government coming after me. So there's certain things I will pay, but it's not like I'm paying every month. I'm paying whatever amount of money. It's like $2,000 for an entire year of outsourcing all of my e-commerce stuff. And that's like hundreds of orders a week. I don't want to enter all that crap. Right. So, but I don't look at that as like an employee if they're just doing this job. What I do like, and this will be a question in the future, I know, is like if I had somebody that can handle my sponsorship stuff, right? Something like that, where I just want, look, I'm cool. Everybody knows it. Here's my stuff. That's all I want to do. Right. But I need somebody who wants to take it to another level and go, this is what we can offer you. This is what this is. Tell me what we need, negotiate the contract, and come back and say, hey, Derek, here's the 6-bullet list you have to do. Right. So I can see myself doing that as a next step, and that could bring more money, which means I can look at, packing orders and hire somebody to do that, or get a warehouse for some of my e-commerce stuff. But I think rushing into, like, if I hired 10 people, I would be able to do so much cooler stuff, but I'd be also in a whole load of debt. Right. Yeah. So it is a small step.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Let's answer some questions. We got some good ones here in the chat. Probably one that we should have opened with closer to the beginning. Am and Ty summarizes pretty well. Let's talk about why to hire people and when is it time to hire for help. and also retro world. How do you know when it's time to hire? So kind of along the same lines, when did you guys know it was time, like you needed to start hiring?
For me, my tech manager was the first person because I just hated going into WordPress, and this is related to my website. It was just something that I just hated, and so it took a lot of stress off of me. I stopped spending entire days trying to get things properly aligned, so that was easy. Another very easy hire for me was to have a gentleman come in and be able to sell advertising for my channel. And what's amazing about when you have someone else selling your spots is that they sell you like you could never sell yourself. And they make you, he had me put together a media kit. We were able to increase our prices. And I know, Tim, we talked about that on your podcast, getting $10,000 for a sponsorship. I would have never believed a couple years ago that companies would pay me $10,000 for a friggin' sponsorship. I mean, I don't get that all the time, but it's something that I've got a guy who is aligned with my interests, who is out there going through, because we get 10 to 15 people that inquire daily about wanting to work with us. And he weeds through that and he identifies, okay, who's serious, who has a marketing budget. And, you get these things coming in, you're like, holy cow. And you work with good companies. And so those were two easy hires for me.
I think there are, oh, sorry, Tim.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there are maybe 3 signals that it might be in answer to the question, how do you know when it's time to hire? There are 3 things that might be like a tipping point for you. They would be the skills of the task that you're trying to do, and you absolutely don't have them. The money that person is going to cost versus how much they're going to be able to generate and grow your business. And the third one would be your time. So what I mean by each of those is when you are completely at capacity in terms of your time and you don't have any more free time to open up to do a task that needs to be done, that's when it might be time to hire someone to help you. Another would be when you reach a point where you say, hiring this person because they are an advertising manager, as Antonio was saying, or because they might be doing something that's revenue generating within the business as opposed to cost generating, like an admin person, for example. If they're a revenue generating position or something like that, knowing that they're going to be able to bring in more revenue than you're going to be spending on that person is another really good indicator that it's time to hire. And the other one would be the skills. So the first person that I hired before I ever made a video was a songwriter, because I tried to write a song and I was like, this is terrible. If this is ever going to get anywhere, I'm going to need to work with songwriters. So, from the very beginning, it was like, that is a skill in all of the things that need to get done. Here's one piece of the pie that I'm never going to be able to achieve very effectively. So I'm going to need to hire for that person. So any of those indicators would be, I think for me, a sign that it might be time to hire someone.
So when you said you hired a songwriter before you even had a channel. So you invested forward in this. Then you were like, I'm going to put money here and I'm hoping that it works. If it doesn't, I just write it off and say, well, it was a fun try.
Yeah. I mean, when you're starting any business, I went into YouTube or I went into this channel partly thinking of it as, okay, this is a venture that I'm going to try. And I don't think we broke even for, I think it was about 3 years. So I was investing in the channel for about 3 years before we started turning that around, about 2.5, 3 years. So yeah, from the very beginning, it was like, I'm outlaying money, but this is where I expect that this will be able to grow. And this is how I'm working that.
The way I did it is first thing I was to get an accountant because the taxes and the money and all that was just like so emotionally draining for me. Like it wasn't a lot of work, but I just hated it so much. So that was the first easy one, and I just outsourced that to a CPA. But then the next thing I did is like I was bottlenecked. I mean, we talked about that when I was in the hot seat. Like I don't have any more time to do anything, and I realized I was spending so much time just editing videos that really, honestly, someone else could edit. So real briefly, what I did is like, all right, I set aside $3,000, and I said I'm gonna hire an editor for 3 months to be able to edit videos for me. And if in that 3 months, I'm going to pretend like this $3,000 doesn't exist anymore, I need to make $9,000 with the amount of time that is freed up for me not editing anymore. Now, of course, when you bring someone on board, they always take more time, and so I factored in. But long story short, instead of making $9,000, I made $15,000 with the time that they freed up. And I was like, okay, this math works. I can keep doing this, right? And so then I was able to keep an editor. Ever since that point, I've had one. So to me, I couldn't afford it at first. It wasn't like part of AdSense, but I had a business model, and I also had ideas of how I could, if my time was freed up, so I could work on my business rather than in the business. And I have a plan for what I'm going to do with my free time that could generate additional income. Then that's what I want to keep doing. And so that hire and then all the other hires. Now I'm just kind of like, let me see if I can outsource everything I can, free up as much time of mine as I can, so I can execute on this long document I have in Evernote of all these ideas I want to do that could potentially even increase the revenue even further, so that I can support other people's families even more and so on. So that's the way I did my first one.
Super quick, and it's just echoing 2 points that have been made already. The first obvious hire that we thought was important is when we signed a rather large, at the time, contract for a sponsored deal with a very, very large company who sent over a 36-page contract, and we did not understand 17 words in the entire contract. We realized the importance of a business manager, someone who understands law, someone who understands contracts, and making sure that getting a sponsored message in the video is one thing. Understanding what happens to that intellectual property after a certain amount of time, and where they plan to promote it, and how they plan to promote it, and how they plan to use your likeness, and what is the extent in which they can use your likeness, all ended up becoming really important to us.
How quickly they're going to pay you.
How quickly they're going to pay you, how often they should, exactly. So all of these things ended up making a business manager or a lawyer or some kind of hybrid of both become an absolute no-brainer as far as one of our first hires. And then just to echo, I think, Tim, your point, I personally, with the amount of work that I was doing and with the spectrum of work that I was doing, I reached kind of terminal velocity where we were not going to make any more money because I was working at the peak of how many hours I could put into this. And there was no more money to be generated out of the hours that I could put into it. So it just made sense to start kind of passing that responsibility along and looking to make money off of bringing other people in. So making more money by spending some money.
Yep. Cool.
Right. So you did the reinvestment. I mean, you had a contract and you knew about, like, this is X amount of dollars. If I took and said, let's, put away a little of this for us, and we just said, here's the rest that we'll invest into somebody that understands this. So you took it as an invest. You did the right thing, as opposed to going, I'm just going to pack all this money in, screw it, I'll figure it out, and then screw up along the way and learn as you go, but get burned a bunch of times. You just did what I think we all should. I think we've made that message clear, hopefully, that we reinvest, even at camera level and stuff like that. It's reinvest in the business.
The first AdSense check that we got for $100 went towards new camera equipment, and always went towards that. So we felt the first even large contracts, even though it was a huge amount of money at the time, it made sense to be like, cool, now we just have a huge amount of money to reinvest into this, because if this is the pinnacle, then we're not getting past this. The only way we're going to get past this and get bigger and do more is if we take this and kind of let it ride, if it were.
And just to be clear, the lawyer, because I see a lot of people in the comments asking about this, but the lawyer / business manager, that we started off doing like, okay, we have this contract, we'll pay you a per contract rate. And then when we started to build a relationship and we saw the value in having that person as part of our team, we did like, a hybrid model where we did a bit of a retainer and then a bit of a percentage. And in terms of working that out with people, when you bring them on, I think it's also an important conversation to have with them, to make sure that they understand they're a valuable part of your team. But at the same time, this YouTube thing is pretty new. It's not as consistent as anybody would like it to be.
AdSense can go away. Your website can get banned. YouTube can shut down your channel at any given time.
So we've been really transparent about that. And, anybody who we've brought on, we now have some people who we can say, okay, you guys are getting paid X amount of dollars a month. But then we have other people who we say, you get X amount of dollars or Y amount of dollars a month. And then if we get a deal, you would get X percentage of that deal based on the amount of work that you perform. So everybody wins when we book something.
Yeah, cool. So Chad and Melissa, what follow-up do you guys have about your situation? And those of you who are asking in the chat, we got a lot of good questions. I want to jump on some of these, especially about how do you hire a video editor? How do you get people to do the same type of quality work you would do, those types of things. So we'll jump into those in a little bit. But Chad and Melissa, where are you guys at with your questions?
You actually have some takeaways.
I think one of the challenges that we've been going through lately is figuring out, I want to say like the workflow, and then also Chad as the sort of EP / president of our company takes on a lot of the work, and we're trying to figure out an appropriate way to filter and then delegate that work, especially for someone who struggles a little bit with delegations. So
An organization. So
and sometimes it doesn't always sound great when it's coming from the wife. So if you guys have any, comments,
I understand that. I understand the limitations of being creative. Is I'm not overly organized. I'm sure there's people who are creative and organized. I tend to focus more upon what I'm good at, and I don't too much worry about trying to fix the things which I feel take away from the time that I do want to do. So yes, finding that balance between how much do I give up versus, what we get in return for that, and trying to find a sane balance so I don't drive myself crazy.
Do you have filters or guidelines in place for that, so that you know what you should be saying no to?
That's what we're getting. That's the conversations that we're having now, because I'm starting to realize that you do need to acknowledge that, and you do need to acknowledge what no is and how to utilize it properly. And I personally don't have the best capabilities of doing that, but that's something that we've identified that needs to improve.
Yeah, I got just learning that a lot myself. The Pumpkin Plan was a really good book that was really helpful for me. And I won't get into it, but I highly recommend it. It really helped me be able to figure out what do I need to say no to. And at the time when I was reading it, everything I needed to say no to is where most of my revenue was coming from. So it was really scary to start saying no to all these things I was doing, because it paid bills, but it wasn't going to scale to the point where I could be the best in the world at one thing, and I could grow my business to where I wanted it to be with those things still attached. So the idea is to grow a prize-winning pumpkin. You got to cut off all the little pumpkins that are distractions disguised as opportunities, he calls them. So my income actually, I think I cut off over 66, 2/3 of my income, which is really scary for a few months, but after about 2 or 3 months later, it was back up to where it was, and I also now have the potential to go further past it, which I didn't before. So that's another whole story you could get into, but the principle though is saying no is actually one of the best things you can do, and having guidelines to say so that this is what our team's good at, this is what we can nail, this is what we can knock out of the park every time, this is what our capacity level is right now, et cetera, et cetera. And it helps you say no to a lot of opportunities that you otherwise would like to do, but just aren't what's best for you. They're just good for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's exactly where I am at. And that fear of understanding that the work you're doing and how you need to get past this is actually going through that lull, and that lull scares the heck out of me. So
yeah, and it's good though, because it makes you hustle.
If it helps, to disassociate yourself with it, it sounds like a project manager might be somebody who's in that org chart that's going to be, in a couple of years when we've grown, we're going to have a couple of project managers in who are their job is managing each of one of these little projects, right? But if you think about that now in terms of where we want to get to, you could say, okay, if I was handing this over to a project manager, would this be something that I would give to them? Is this enough of a project? Is this enough of a task? Is this something that we should be working on as a business that I'm happy to say, this is the project manager's task, and here, take this on? Because if you would then do the checks and balances with yourself to say, that's not a project that's really going to be worth our time, or it doesn't necessarily have the legs or whatever for us to put a full-time project manager on it, then you right now wearing that hat, that's not a useful thing for you to be spending your time on right now either. So just if for you it's hard to separate what I want to work on and what I'm working on right now, think of it as another person who's doing that job. It's just you happen to be wearing that hat right now, but think of it as another person doing that job. Would that be enough to give to them, and is that a worthwhile task to bring on and into the business and to pursue?
The book is called The Pumpkin Plan, a simple strategy to grow a remarkable business in any field. So that's the one that was really helpful for me.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks to everyone, actually. Thank you. This is
Hey, Chad, really quick, what are your work hours?
I start work around 10 a.m. I work through till about 5 p.m. I spend time with doing other things until about 10 p.m. and then I work through until about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Well, I just know that you guys are gonna have a big change here, pretty soon. And I just found that for me, like having kids and having family that I have to be there for is probably one of the easiest. I've heard some entrepreneurs call this like the baby effect, where literally like you realize I just got to start saying no to things, because it's like, for me, there was a sign I had up: is the time I'm spending on my business worth the time I could be spending with my family? And it becomes so easy to say no to all these things. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't have time to have another meeting with you. I know that you want to pay me money work, but here's the deal. Like, we need to keep this to email and we need to nail this in the next, we just need to get this done. And it becomes so easy to be able to say no to so many things when you realize, like, I can only, like, you become really cutthroat. I have a kitchen timer that I keep. They're like, I set up a game. Can I get 30 emails done in 30 minutes? And like, I'm just zipping through and just knocking through this, because I realize that I've got to make time for, what really matters.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the thing about the kids, because between you and Tim, you guys have 10 kids. And I don't know how you
how do you get any work done?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have kids, and one of the things we always say is, "Oh yeah, we'll figure it out."
Can we clarify to anyone watching that me and Tim didn't have the kids together?
Between you two.
Yeah, and then I only have 4. Like Tim,
I have
Tim's
6.
setting the records
Yeah.
over.
Another interesting topic, but no, it's certainly something. But I see what you're saying, where you really start to order your priorities. When you think, okay, work versus family. And one thing that Chad definitely needs to tune up is his work hours, because they are.
Yeah. Cool. Let's jump in a few more questions here, and then the rest of us, we can keep talking after this if we want to. But the most common questions here, though, from the Joyous family, Carham Central hiring, or Car Cam Central, and then Thomas and Louisa, a lot of people, Amantai. How do you train an editor to do it the way you would? And that's basically the kind of yes, there are freelance editors and things like that, but is it difficult to onboard them? How do you teach them to do it? I know I have a method for it, but any of you guys?
Yeah, I have an editor, and I have a couple editors actually. And something that we've done is set up a style guide, like in a Google Doc, to kind of talk about every single aspect of every video, to be like, all right, these animation, down to the keyframe of animations, we need exactly this many to go exactly this amount, and we map it all out. And we do keep it pretty loose, though, in the sense that I allow them to have creative freedom, in a sense. But no, I basically say, this is how I want them to be done. If you have any suggestions, if you have anything that you want to try out, feel free. And then we still have a revision process. So if it comes back and I'm like, I don't particularly like this, can you change that? And then after a while, for me, hiring new editors, I had to do a revision process on the videos for like the first couple of weeks. And then once we got into a rhythm, it was like, all right, you kind of get it. You know what I'm going after. And yeah, so I think it's laying out some ground rules and some guidelines first. And then after a short period of time, I should kind of know how that works.
Good point.
Anybody else?
Well, you've got videos online, just watch them.
The way I do it is I try to systematize as much as I can. So everyone has a process that they go through, and when you edit your videos, you just don't know what it is, but you make decisions all the time about where to cut and what you put in, what you take out. you just don't know, you haven't formalized what's going on in your head. So when you edit, I would just say get like like just something to start taking notes. Like, why are you cutting here, not here? What's the principle you're following? What's the principle you're following when you decide that you're going to fade music in here and not there? You know, like you have it, just got to start listening out, pay attention to that system that you're following, that you've created for yourself, and put it down in writing. And then what I do is I give that to my editor, but then for the first few videos, I just screen capture myself editing, and I give them like I make them watch it. It's like, you know, an hour long each, but you know, if they want the job as part of it, like you just watch me editing, and the whole time I'm explaining, okay, I'm cutting here because see this part here, or this is why I'm fading these two together, but not over here, you know, I was explaining it, which most of it's already written out, but I just want them to see it a few times. So I find by doing that gets me, I guess, in the editor about 85% of the way there. And then the last 10 to 15, we could, if we really worked on it, we could get there. But most of the time, like people aren't even going to notice. Like I notice it because it was my video, like what I would do differently. But anyone who's watching it, like you guys would never know the difference. So, and that's not really worth picking on at that point as far as my time is concerned. So,
and one other thing I would add is when you're doing edits as well on those early drafts is explain what you're changing. So when someone gives you a draft, you've trained up an editor, they give you a version, and then they say, here you go. And you're going to make a few final tweaks before you put it up there. Screen capture that, because they need to know, okay, well, what did you change? What about it do I need to know for the next one? So even when you're doing revisions on their work, make sure that you're explaining that to them, because then they'll be able to fix that the next time.
I feel like if I hired a video editor, they would be so much better than me. Like, I don't even know if I'd really, this is what I'd say. I'd say, I got 10 minutes, keep my personality and attitude in there, cut out stuff that doesn't provide any value, and let me know when it's done.
What? Oh, never mind. You just set yourself up. So I wouldn't say, well, what if your personality isn't what's adding value? Like, oh.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I've got 75,000 subscribers. Somebody cares.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, cool. And I yell and scream. You like it or you don't. Move on.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you guys who are watching, and giving you guys some ideas about how to start finding, hiring, and thinking about a team for your channel and your audience. I've learned a lot, and just like rethinking through a lot of these things and talking about it has been helpful for me, so I hope they have been for you guys as well. If this is your first time here, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. Every Thursday, we're publishing videos to help you guys out as YouTube creators, know how you can grow your YouTube channel and reach the people that need to hear your message, so you can impact them with the message that you're spreading and hopefully change their lives. That's what this is all about for me and for each of these panelists that have been here, these co-hosts with me as well. So you can download the audio podcast, not just these of this show, but I also am publishing other video creators podcasts that aren't on the YouTube channel, and those are cool because I can really spend like a half hour or so digging into some of the content, as opposed to, you know, like a 3-minute YouTube video or something. I can really dig in deep into those. So those are cool. So subscribe, check those out. Thanks for hanging out with us. Oh, next week, Derek is in the hot seat, and we're talking about how to find and attract sponsors. So if you want to learn about how we interact and engage and bring sponsors to the table and all that kind of stuff, that's what we're going to be talking with Derek about next week. So check that out. Thanks for hanging out, guys. And we will see you guys again next week for another Video Entrepreneur Show. See you then. Bye.